everyone, my name is Chloe Buckner, and I will be giving a presentation today on temperature's effect on animals' daily activity. I just wanted to open up with this little meme, considering my topic is centered around climate change, and this is just looking at the controversy that this topic has in today's society and how so many people do not believe it is an issue that we are faced with. And that brings me to my first point, which is climate change is a serious and growing threat. Scientists have shown ample evidence that our surface is facing an increase in surface temperature. And this is a very serious threat that we need to be focused on. And that is why research is so important. And more specifically for this presentation, the importance to investigate the effect of climate change on animal activity, right? So changes in behavior. So are they showing activity that we would expect? So if they're nocturnal, are they coming out during the night? If they're diurnal, do we see them coming out during the day like we would expect? Because if we see changes in their activity, this could lead to human-animal interactions, an increase in those, and so an increase in conflicts, a greater risk of transferring zoonotic diseases, and also just general changes to the ecosystem. So if these animals are changing their activities, how is it going to affect the other animals that they interact with on a daily basis and other parts of their environment? And so my group, we focused on do mammals in areas that are warming faster change their daily behavior patterns when compared with mammals in areas that are cooling. And our hypothesis was that daily behavior patterns would demonstrate that species in warmer areas will be more active at dawn and dusk, while species in cooler areas will be more active midday. And so just a brief overview of the methods, we used Snapshot USA data where hundreds of cameras were deployed across the United States and they picked up animal detections. And so the detection rate was calculated as a measure of relative abundance. And for this particular presentation, we also looked at temperatures. And so max temperatures were taken from day met. And so we compared a baseline from the years 1980 to 2000 versus the snapshot years. And I just wanted to acknowledge briefly Dr. Kays, Dr. Jensen, and Ben and Leo in their efforts to compile data to allow us to analyze it. And so this is just a quick map showing the different snapshot sites, and the red dots represent the areas that showed an increase in temperature, and the blue dots are the areas that showed a decrease in temperature. And so for this presentation and project, we selected 50 different sub-projects from Snapshot. And so that was the 25 areas that showed the greatest increase in temperature and the 25 areas that showed the greatest decrease in temperature. And so we chose 5 species to analyze for the detection rates, and we generated 2 graphs for each species, and then we compared those graphs. And so I'm going to be focusing on the raccoon daily detections. And so this first graph is showing the average daily detections from the 25 hottest sub-projects. And as we can see, it's what we would expect, right? We see, because raccoons are nocturnal, that we see most of their activity was focused around the nighttime hours, dawn and dusk, and during the day, we see essentially no detections. And if we compare that to our graph that shows the average daily detections from the 25 CODA sub-projects, we can see there's a very clear difference. We see that during the day, there are detections of raccoon activity, and this is very out of line because they are nocturnal. So we would expect them to be sleeping during the day and coming out at night. And so this leads us to a conclusion that raccoons did adjust their activity to avoid heat stress in hotter areas. And then they came out during the day in the colder areas to conserve energy that they might use to regulate their body temperature. And the other species that we examined showed similar changes in their activity detections. And so this leads us to conclude that climate change will drive changes in animal activity patterns. And this in turn will lead to domino effects, right? So if these animals are changing their activity patterns, this goes back to what we talked about in the introduction. We're going to see an increase in human-animal interactions. So more conflicts that we might need to solve and more dangers presented to those animals that are interacting with humans and then the humans themselves, and also just changes to our ecosystems if these animals are changing their behavior patterns. And so thank you very much for listening to my talk, and I hope you found it informative and just learning more about why we should be looking at climate change and its effects on animals. So thank you.